that worst case scenario. Because if you're fighting for the worst case or preparing for the worst case, you are set up for success for everything else. So what's the worst case?
The world as you know it goes silent. No hum of refrigerators, no glow from streetlights, and no connection to the outside world. Phones are dead, cars are stranded, and cities are drowning in darkness. Within hours, panic sets in as people realize this isn't temporary, it's a complete collapse of electricity. What would you do if everything you rely on, from clean water to heating, vanished overnight? Imagine waking up one morning and realizing nothing works. Your phone won't turn on, the internet is gone, and even the TV is just a lifeless screen. Communication, something we take for granted every day, would collapse instantly. There'd be no way to call loved ones, no updates about what's happening, and no emergency services to reach out to. The chaos wouldn't stop there. Transportation, the backbone of modern life, would grind to a halt. Traffic lights would stop working, leading to dangerous intersections and gridlocked roads. Trains and subways would come to a standstill, stranding commuters wherever they were when the power went out. Planes in the air would have to rely solely on their internal systems to land safely, while those on the ground would remain grounded indefinitely. Even your car wouldn't be much use for long because fuel pumps require electricity to work. Without power, gas stations couldn't pump fuel, and soon cars, trucks, and delivery vehicles would run dry. The money would quickly become another massive problem. With ATMs out of service and no power for card machines, your credit cards and online banking accounts would be useless. Cash would be the only way to pay for anything, but even that wouldn't guarantee much. How many people keep enough small bills on hand for emergencies? And with no way to restock cash supplies, whatever money you have would need to stretch far. As the hours turn into days, the confusion would escalate into something far worse. Stores would quickly run out of essentials as people panic buy food, water, and supplies. Once shelves were empty, desperation would lead to looting. Employees, fearing for their safety, might abandon their posts entirely, leaving stores open for the taking.
Threat. There are practical preparedness solutions that exist as well. I think that
when the power goes out for good, the first thing you notice is how quickly food becomes a problem. Refrigerators and freezers, the lifelines for preserving fresh food, would stop working. Within hours, meat, dairy, and other perishables would spoil, leaving you with whatever non-perishables you managed to stockpile. Grocery stores wouldn't be much help either. Without electricity, they wouldn't be able to restock shelves or keep cold items fresh. Water would soon become an even bigger challenge. Modern water systems rely heavily on electricity to pump, treat, and distribute clean water to homes. Finding safe drinking water would become a daily concern, and contaminated water sources could turn this necessity into a deadly gamble.
It's basically just a matter of how much mass. So if it's heavy, it works good. If it's light, it doesn't work very good. So, books.
Cooking and heating wouldn't be straightforward either. Most modern stoves and ovens require either electricity or gas systems that depend on electrical components. Many homes, especially newer ones, aren't set up for alternatives like wood or coal stoves. You'd have to find creative ways to prepare food and stay warm, possibly resorting to outdoor cooking. This could be especially hard during bad weather or in urban areas where access to fuel like firewood is limited. And then there's the darkness. Nights without electric lighting would feel unsettling and unsafe. Flashlights and candles can only go so far, and once your batteries run out or your candles burn down, you'll be left in pitch black conditions. Tasks that seem simple, like moving around your home or stepping outside, would suddenly become difficult and dangerous. The long-term fallout from a power outage of this scale would be devastating. Hospitals, for example, rely on electricity for everything from life support machines to lighting during surgeries. While backup generators could help for a short time, those systems would eventually fail without fuel or maintenance. Basic healthcare would become inaccessible for most people, turning minor injuries and illnesses into life-threatening conditions. Trash pickup services and sewage systems both depend on electricity to function. With no way to dispose of waste properly, trash would pile up, attracting rats and insects that spread disease. Toilets would stop flushing, leading to backups and unsanitary conditions in homes and neighborhoods. Disease outbreaks would spread fast, especially in crowded areas where hygiene is already compromised. The collapse of the supply chain would make things even worse. Factories need power to produce goods, warehouses needed to store them, and delivery trucks needed to transport items. Essential supplies like food, medicine, and clothing would become scarce almost immediately. Available items would be nearly impossible to distribute without working vehicles and fuel. Speaking of fuel, shortages would hit hard. Gas stations rely on electricity to pump fuel, which means no way to fill up your car or keep supply trucks moving. Emergency vehicles like ambulances and fire trucks would also face fuel shortages, limiting their ability to help in a crisis. If the lights went out for good, have you thought about how you'd manage the most basic necessities? Start with water. Without running taps, where would you get it? Collecting rainwater might seem like an option, but do you have the tools to do it safely? And once you have water, how would you store it? Buckets and barrels can work, but keeping the water clean and drinkable over time is a whole different challenge. Food storage is another big question. Refrigerators and freezers wouldn't keep your food fresh, so what's your plan to keep meals on the table? Stocking up on canned goods and dry staples like rice and beans might buy you some time, but even those will run out eventually. Would you be able to grow your own food or hunt if needed? And if you're storing food, do you know how to keep pests and rodents from getting to it before you do? Cooking and heating are tied to survival too. Modern kitchens depend on electricity or gas, and most people don't have a backup plan. Do you have a camp stove or a portable propane grill? What about enough fuel to last for months? And when the weather gets cold, how will you heat your home? Blankets and layers might help, but in extreme conditions, it won't be enough. Do you have a wood-burning stove or a fireplace? If so, do you have enough wood or the means to gather it? Trash piles up fast, and without regular pickup, it can attract pests and even spread disease. What would you do with your garbage? Burn it? Bury it? And then there's sewage. If your toilets stop working, where does all that waste go? Have you thought about how you'd handle it safely without contaminating your water supply? Money is another area to think through. Credit cards and online banking would be useless, and ATMs wouldn't work. Do you have enough cash on hand to cover emergencies? Smaller bills would be especially important, since finding change would be impossible. And beyond cash, what could you trade if money becomes worthless? Things like food, tools, or even skills might become the new currency. Are you ready to barter if it comes to that? If you want to be ready for a world without electricity, you need to start taking practical steps while you still have the chance. Non-perishable food like canned goods, rice, beans, and dried fruits can keep you going when fresh food is no longer an option. Water is just as crucial. You'll need enough stored to last at least a few weeks, along with a way to purify more when your stash runs out. Don't forget basic medical supplies either. Bandages, antiseptics, pain relievers, and any prescription medications you or your family rely on. These could become life-saving in a crisis. Cooking is something else you'll need to think about. Without electricity or gas, how will you prepare meals? Investing in a propane stove or a wood-burning setup is a smart move. If you're relying on something like propane, make sure you've stored enough fuel to last. And for wood, ensure you have a safe, dry place to keep it. Practice cooking with these methods so you're comfortable using them when it matters most. Survival skills are just as valuable as supplies. Knowing how to purify water, perform basic first aid, and even build a fire can make a huge difference. Beyond individual preparation, think about your community. Going at it alone might sound noble, but the truth is survival is often easier when you work with others. Operational security, or OPSEC, means keeping your plans and supplies private. If word gets out that you're well stocked, you could become a target for desperate people. That doesn't mean isolating yourself, but it does mean being cautious about who you trust and what you reveal. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.